Come, come, gather around. Get ready for a new tale on Dreamin' Kit. Before we start, please help me reach a few more subscribers. I would greatly appreciate it. Now, let's start our story for today. Chapter 1. Broken Patterns. Elias Thorne jolts awake, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The nightmare clings to him like smoke. Buildings ablaze, people fleeing, and his own hands extended, somehow controlling the inferno. He sits up in bed, moonlight filtering through half-drawn blinds, and practices the breathing technique he's perfected over years of similar awakenings. 4 counts in, hold for 7, out for 8. The digital clock on his nightstand reads 4:13 a.m. Earlier than usual, but there's no point trying to sleep again. In the kitchen, Elias freezes. His professional knife set, the one possession he truly values, has been rearranged on the magnetic strip above his counter. The knives form a distinct pattern, a broken crown. He hasn't touched them since meticulously cleaning and arranging them last night. This is the 3rd time this month. The first occurrence, he blamed his exhaustion. The second, perhaps a minor earthquake. Now the pattern is unmistakable, deliberate. Someone or something is sending a message. "Not today," he mutters, carefully repositioning each knife in its proper place. Utility, boning, chefs, paring, santaku, bread. The familiar ritual soothes him, restoring order to his carefully constructed world. His shadow designation bracelet catches the dim light as he works, its matte black surface absorbing rather than reflecting. Unlike the shimmering silver and gold of paragons and architects, he's kept it hidden under long sleeves for most of his 27 years. Cooking has always been Elias's sanctuary. He measures flour for sourdough pancakes with scientific precision, whisks eggs with practiced flourishes, and slices strawberries into perfectly equal pieces. The kitchen becomes his haven, a place where chaos yields to control. When he plates his breakfast, he pauses, noticing the strawberry compote he's unconsciously drizzled in that same broken crown pattern. With a quick sweep of his napkin, he destroys the image and sits down to eat. Later that afternoon, Elias ties his apron at Rossi's Italian bistro, nodding to the other line cooks as they prepare for the evening rush. The restaurant kitchen hums with anticipation, knives chopping, water boiling, oils sizzling. Above them, fate crystal lamps cast a warm glow, their light steadier around those content with their destinies. Around Elias they've always flickered, though he's become adept at pretending not to notice. Chef Dominic claps his hands, gathering everyone's attention. "Listen up, people. Tonight's going to be busy. Founding Day Planning Committee has reserved the private room, plus we're fully booked in the main dining room." His booming voice carries over the kitchen noise. Also, our new front-of-house manager starts today. Cassandra Bright comes highly recommended from Capital City. I expect everyone to make her welcome. "Another paragon hire?" mumbles Marco, the sauce chef beside Elias. "That's the 3rd this year." Elias shrugs, focusing on the risotto before him. "As long as they keep the dining room running smoothly, I don't care what designation they have." But he does care more than he admits. Every new paragon in his vicinity means more scrutiny, more chances for his carefully constructed facade to crack. As he stirs the risotto, he notices the sauce has formed a pattern in the pan, another broken crown. With a quick flick of his wrist, he disperses it before anyone can see. The dinner service begins precisely at 5, and Elias loses himself in the familiar rhythm of the kitchen. Call tickets, prepare plates, garnish, serve. Repeat. The fate crystal lamps above his station flicker occasionally. but he's positioned himself where it's least noticeable. At 6:15, Chef Dominic enters the kitchen with a woman Elias has never seen before. "Everyone, meet Cassandra Bright, our new front-of-house manager," Dominic announces. "Cassandra, these are the magicians who make our food the best in inevitability." She stands tall and confident, golden blonde hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, silver paragon bracelet gleaming prominently on her wrist. "Pleasure to meet you all," she says, her voice carrying easily over the kitchen noise. Her gaze sweeps across the staff, pausing when it reaches Elias. Their eyes lock, and the faint crystal lamps above dim noticeably. Chef Dominic glances up, frowning at the fluctuation, but the moment passes as quickly as it began. "Nice to have you aboard," Elias says, the practiced pleasantry rolling off his tongue while unease settles in his stomach. Something about her gaze feels too knowing, too focused. He returns to his risotto, but he can feel her watching him as Dominic continues the tour. "Did you see that?" Marco whispers. "The lamps practically went out when you two looked at each other." He winks suggestively. "Maybe you've got a destiny thing happening there." "Don't be ridiculous," Elias replies, perhaps too sharply. "Fate crystal fluctuations happen all the time. Probably just a power surge." He knows better, of course. The dimming is a warning, a signal that two opposing destinies have just crossed paths. He's felt it before, but never this strongly. The dinner service progresses, and Elias tries to focus solely on his cooking. Then the first coincidence occurs. A customer at table 7 leaves behind a leather portfolio that falls open when a server brings it to the lost and found. Inside are detailed blueprints of Silverbank's main vault, complete with security protocols. Elias glimpses them as he passes through the front, and something inside him calculates angles, timing weak points, knowledge he shouldn't possess but somehow does. The second coincidence happens an hour later. Enzo Marconi, notorious for his connections to Inevitability's underground, requests to speak with the chef who prepared his ossobuco. When Elias approaches the table, Marconi smiles knowingly. "Exceptional dish. You have a gift for transformation." He slides a business card across the table. "I have a special opportunity that might interest someone with your particular talents." The pay would be substantial. The card bears only a phone number and a small broken crown insignia in the corner. Elias pockets the card reflexively, murmuring thanks while inwardly recoiling. This has happened before, strangers recognizing something in him he tries to hide, offering opportunities that align too perfectly with the future he fights against. He returns to the kitchen, his calm exterior belying the turmoil within. As he passes a stove that should be turned off, flames suddenly erupt, reaching dangerously toward the ceiling. Without thinking, Elias extends his hand in a gesture that feels both foreign and familiar. The fire responds instantly, shrinking, and then extinguishing completely. Only afterward does he realize what he's done, exactly what he did in his nightmare. He glances around quickly, but the kitchen staff are occupied with their stations. Only a silhouette in the doorway catches his attention. Cassandra, watching him with an unreadable expression before she disappears back into the dining room. The rest of service passes in a blur of activity, but Elias feels Cassandra's attention like a physical weight whenever she enters the kitchen. By closing time, his nerves are frayed despite his outward composure. As the staff cleans up, he focuses on his knives, wiping each one meticulously before returning it to his personal case. "Those are exceptional pieces," Cassandra's voice comes from behind him. He hadn't heard her approach. "Custom made?" Elias nods, not looking up. Forged in the Spine Mountains, anniversary gift to myself for surviving 5 years in professional kitchens. He deliberately omits that he designed the balanced weight himself, or that the blacksmith had commented on his unusually specific knowledge of blade dynamics. "May I?" she asks, hand hovering over his chef's knife. Without waiting for permission, she picks it up, testing its weight and examining the handle. "Interesting pattern here," she notes, running her finger along an inlaid design he knows resembles a broken crown. "Matches your birthmark." Elias's hand moves instinctively to his wrist, where his watch covers the mark she shouldn't know about. "I don't have a birthmark," he lies smoothly, years of practice making the denial sound convincing. "No?" Her smile doesn't reach her eyes. "My mistake, then. Must be thinking of someone else." She sets the knife down, her silver bracelet catching the light. "I've heard so much about you, Elias Thorne." The quiet chef who keeps to himself, who never misses a shift, who lives alone in apartment 512 on Meridian Street. The specificity sends a chill through him. "Someone mentioned you were quite the artist as a child. Didn't you win a contest with a drawing of a burning cityscape when you were 9? The memory flashes unbidden. Teachers' concerned faces, his foster parents' embarrassment, the school counselor asking why he'd drawn people running from flames. "I think you have me confused with someone else," he says, closing his knife case with deliberate care. "I should get going. Early morning prep tomorrow." Cassandra leans against the counter, studying him. "Of course. Don't let me keep you. I'm sure we'll have plenty of time to get better acquainted." She pauses, then adds, "After all, some meetings are simply inevitable." Elias nods politely and escapes to the locker room, changing quickly before heading to the parking lot. The night air is cool against his face, a welcome relief after the kitchen's heat. And the tension of that conversation. He's halfway to his car when he sees it, sprawled across the driver's side door in dripping silver paint that shimmers with faint crystal energy the word "Villa." His breath catches. The silver paint isn't ordinary. It's infused with prophecy magic, visible only to those it references and those destined to be part of their story. He glances around the empty parking lot, then back at the restaurant. Through the window, Cassandra watches him, her expression solemn. Their eyes meet across the distance, and in that moment, something passes between them. Recognition, assessment, perhaps even resignation. Predator and prey, acknowledging each other, though Elias isn't certain which role is his to play. The silver paint clung to his skin like a promise, refusing to be wiped away despite his frantic attempt. As Elias drove home through the empty streets, the night seemed to press against his windows with unusual weight, as if the darkness itself had become conscious of his presence. The broken crown pattern from the graffiti burned in his vision long after he'd left it behind, appearing in the arrangement of streetlights, in the cracks of his apartment ceiling, in the scattered pills he fumbled with before collapsing into restless sleep. His dreams came fractured and sharp-edged, a sword's gleam, a woman's knowing eyes, glass shattering outward from his fingertips. And beneath it all, the terrible certainty that by morning the careful walls he'd built around his life would begin to splinter and fall, revealing the truth he'd spent years denying, a truth as indelible as the silver handprint now staining his steering wheel, marking everything he touched with the prophecy he could no longer outrun. Chapter 2. Shattered Control. Elias jolted awake, the silver handprint still visible on his palm, despite scrubbing it raw in the shower. He'd managed perhaps 3 hours of fitful sleep before the nightmares drove him from bed, fragments of prophecy disguised as dreams. By 7 a.m., desperation had him speeding across town to the one person who might make sense of what was happening. Morning sunlight now filtered through the blinds of Morgan Wright's cybersecurity office as Elias paced nervously between server racks. The blue glow from multiple monitors cast an ethereal light on his troubled face, while Morgan, her fingers dancing across 3 keyboards simultaneously, pulled up images of the graffiti he'd photographed last night. Her office was a testament to organized chaos, walls covered with fate crystal activity patterns from across inevitability, digital displays showing energy spikes and prophetic convergence points. "The Bright family," Morgan said, swiveling in her chair to face Elias. "Notorious hero hunters with a spotless public reputation." She pulled up surveillance photos showing a familiar blonde following Elias for weeks. At the market, outside his apartment, even watching Rossi's from across the street. "Your stalker's name is Cassandra Bright. Her family has a tradition of eliminating prophesied villains before they fully man." Elias leans closer to the screen, studying the silver sword emblem on Cassandra's pendant. "Why me? I'm not manifesting anything." His voice carries the weariness of a man who has spent his entire life fighting against a label he never chose. "It's worse than random targeting," Morgan replies, pulling up ancient documents with prophecy text. "There's a specific Thorne-Bright prophecy dating back centuries, predicting a final confrontation between your bloodlines." She points to a symbol recurring throughout the text, a broken crown. "According to these records, the last Thorne will bring darkness before being struck down by the bright sword." Her voice softens. "They believe you're that final Thorne, Elias." At Rossi's, the kitchen buzzes with unusual energy. Chef Dominic barks orders as the staff prepares for an unexpectedly large lunch reservation. Elias notices something odd, equipment subtly rearranged in crown-like patterns that nobody else seems to see. He shakes his head, trying to dispel the paranoia creeping into his thoughts. "Heard a food critic might be dropping by today," Chef Dominic mentions, expertly flipping a pan of sautéing vegetables. "So everyone needs to be at their absolute best." He claps Elias on the shoulder, a gesture of confidence that only intensifies the pressure building in Elias's chest. As Elias methodically prepares his specialty dishes, his anxiety builds. The reflection from his knife momentarily forms a silver sword shape in the polished countertop, making him flinch. The kitchen thermometer rises steadily despite the air conditioning working at full capacity. When he glances at the spice rack, he finds someone has arranged the jars in the unmistakable pattern of a broken crown. The dining room fills quickly with the lunch crowd, and Elias spots her immediately. Cassandra Bright, seated alone at a corner table, her attention seemingly focused on her menu, but her eyes occasionally flicking toward the kitchen. Chef Dominic nudges him back to work before he can fixate too much. The service proceeds smoothly until a middle-aged man at table 7 suddenly clutches his throat, face turning alarming shades of red before collapsing onto his plate. Chaos erupts. Diners jump to their feet, voices rise in panic, and someone shouts about calling an ambulance. Through the commotion, Elias hears the whispers, "Food poisoning and unsafe kitchen practices." Something inside him snaps. A wave of heat surges through his body, followed by a deafening crash as every glass in the restaurant, from water goblets to wine bottles behind the bar, shatters simultaneously. In the frozen moment that follows, only Cassandra notices the connection. Her eyes lock with his across the room, and what Elias sees isn't triumph, but conflicted recognition. The broken glass across the floor catches the light, forming crown-like patterns that nobody else seems to notice. Before he can process this, a new figure sweeps into the restaurant, an elegant woman with Cassandra's blonde hair but sharper features. introducing herself to Chef Dominic as Victoria Bright, food safety consultant. While medical personnel attend to the collapsed customer, Victoria charms her way through the restaurant, speaking confidently with staff and diners alike. Chef Dominic gives her a tour, clearly impressed by her professional demeanor. Only Elias notices the tension between Victoria and Cassandra, subtle glances loaded with unspoken directive. He's distracted when Chef Dominic calls him to the office, but not before he glimpses Victoria slipping something into the staff locker area. Elias, they found traces of belladonna in the man's food, Chef Dominic says in the kitchen's relative quiet, his face grave. I need to ask, is there any possibility of cross-contamination in your station? Before Elias can defend himself, Chef Dominic opens Elias's locker, revealing gloves dusted with a suspicious powder. The look of disappointment on his mentor's face cuts deeper than any accusation. After closing, Elias finds Cassandra waiting in the back alley, moonlight glinting off her pendant. The prophecy is already manifesting, she says without preamble. That display with the glasses, that's only the beginning. The Thorne power always starts with emotional triggers. I didn't poison anyone, Elias counters, fists clenched. Your mother planted those gloves. I saw her sneaking around the lockers. The air around them seems to vibrate with tension. This isn't about poisoning, Cassandra replies, her voice surprisingly gentle. It's about what you're destined to become. My family has tracked your bloodline for generations, waiting, watching for the final thorn. She steps closer. I've been watching you resist it, fighting your nature every day. Part of me almost wishes you could succeed. Their increasingly heated argument, Elias desperately defending his chosen life while Cassandra struggles with her own doubts, is interrupted by the arrival of a slender man in Oracle Temple robes. Gregory Walsh steps between them with practiced authority, his fate crystal badge glowing brightly. Perhaps, he suggests, his voice carrying an unmistakable command, we should discuss this properly on sacred ground, where prophecies can be verified. The broken crown etched into the wood seemed to pulse with each beat of Elias's hammering heart. His hands trembled as he backed away, staring at what he'd done, at what he'd become, without even trying. The air around him still crackled with unfamiliar energy, and when his shoulder bumped against the row of kitchen knives mounted on the wall, several blades broke free from their magnetic strip. They hovered momentarily in the air before clattering to the ground, their polished edges catching the moonlight like scattered stars. Elias didn't wait to see the horror bloom further across Gregory's face or the vindication settle into Cassandra's eyes, despite her injury. He turned and ran into the night, leaving behind the restaurant that had been his sanctuary, fleeing from a truth that no amount of culinary precision could ever slice away. But prophecies, like perfectly timed reductions, only intensify when heat is applied, and somewhere across the city, Victoria Bright was already turning up the flame. Chapter 3. Prophecy's Choice. The night air bit at Elias's skin as he fled through the streets, each pounding footstep carrying him farther from the disaster at the restaurant, but not from the truth that pursued him like a shadow. His mind replayed the hovering knives, the crown etched into wood, Gregory's horror, Cassandra's knowing eyes, despite her injury. After nearly an hour of aimless running, his feet carried him to the only place that felt safe. Elias stumbled into Morgan's apartment, gasping for breath. He hadn't called ahead, couldn't trust himself to speak, but she took one look at his haunted expression and ushered him inside without questions. Morgan guided him to the couch, her familiar presence momentarily steadying his trembling hands. Before she could speak, her phone chimed with an urgency that matched his racing heart. "It's Chef Dominic," Morgan said, her voice tight with worry as she read the alert. "He's been hospitalized after what they're calling a kitchen accident at Savor." She turned her tablet toward Elias, showing security footage from the restaurant kitchen earlier that day. The grainy video revealed Victoria Bright examining equipment when no one was watching, her fingers deftly loosening a gas valve, tampering with electrical connections. "She tried to remove him," Elias whispers, horror dawning. "Dominic was the only person who believed in me, who gave me a normal life." As the realization settles, the lights in Morgan's apartment flicker. Her television switches on spontaneously, the screen crackling with static before forming a distinct pattern, broken crown fragments assembling and disassembling in endless cycles. Elias stares at his hands, feeling the power surge through him like electricity searching for ground. The local news channel cuts through the static, a reporter's solemn face filling the screen. "Police are seeking Elias Thorne for questioning regarding a mass food poisoning incident at Savor Restaurant." What? According to witness testimony from respected Oracle Council liaison Victoria Bright, Thorne was seen tampering with ingredients shortly before customers fell ill. The fate crystal pendant around the reporter's neck glows brightly, signaling society's acceptance of this prophetic development, the villain finally emerging. Across the city in Fatebinder General Hospital, Cassandra Bright presses a cold compress against her bruised temple. The injury itself is minor, but its implications are profound. All her life, she'd been taught that the prophesied villain must be eliminated before he could rise, that preemptive action was the only path to safety. Yet something in Elias's desperate eyes had reached her. Not malice but terror, not villainy but a person desperately fighting against an imposed narrative. "I need answers," Cassandra murmurs, slipping from her hospital room while her mother is occupied with hospital administration. She navigates the hospital corridors, noting with unease how the decorative ceiling moldings form subtle broken crown patterns above her. Prophecy manifesting in architecture. Even the bandage pattern visible through a window into Chef Dominic's room seems to form the same symbol, fate weaving its imagery everywhere. The Oracle Temple archives are nearly empty when Cassandra arrives, finding Gregory Walsh hunched over ancient scrolls. "I wondered when you might come," he says without looking up. "You've begun to question." He unrolls a yellowed parchment revealing the complete prophecy text in ancient script. "Da?" His finger traces the critical passage. "The villain shall rise only if the hero strikes first." Cassandra's breath catches as Gregory continues. "For generations, your family has interpreted this to mean preemptive action is necessary. But what if it means something else entirely?" Cassandra stares at the text, noticing for the first time how silver sword imagery surrounds them in temple decorations, growing more numerous and prominent as she follows the motif around the room. The prophecy isn't commanding me to strike, she realizes. It's warning against it. Gregory nods solemnly, adjusting his glasses. Prophecies don't command. They illuminate possibilities. Your mother has scheduled a containment ceremony for tomorrow evening, but I fear her intentions are far darker. In Morgan's apartment, Elias watches his cooking implements transform before his eyes. Kitchen knives hovering, spoons bending, food ingredients blackening and reshaping into weapons. His abilities are surging beyond control as the prophecy accelerates. Morgan's research on her tablet reveals Victoria's true plan. The containment ceremony is actually designed to use ancient temple magic to force Elias's villainous transformation, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. If I don't stop this, innocent people will be hurt, Elias says, watching the fate crystal on Morgan's bookshelf dim as he makes the decision. I need to confront Victoria before the ceremony. Morgan grabs her bag, determination flashing in her eyes. Not alone. Whatever happens, we face it together. The broken crown birthmark on Elias's wrist pulses painfully as they head for the door. The Oracle Temple's central chamber glows with accumulated prophecy energy, massive fate crystals pulsing in rhythm as Victoria arranges ceremonial artifacts. Attendants prepare the ritual space, while Victoria privately instructs her loyalists. When Thorne arrives, and he will, ensure he's positioned directly beneath the primary crystal. She doesn't notice Cassandra and Gregory slipping into the observer's gallery above, nor their careful manipulation of the ancient control mechanisms that regulate crystal energy flow. As twilight bathes Fatebinder in purple shadow, Elias and Morgan approach the temple steps. Security forces immediately recognize him, but instead of arresting him, they escort him inside, exactly as Victoria planned. The fate crystals pulse brighter as he enters the chamber, their light casting broken crown shadows across the marble floor. Victoria's smile is triumphant as she sees him. "The prophecy fulfills itself," she announces to the gathering crowd. "The villain arrives of his own accord." "Stop this ceremony," Elias demands, his voice echoing in the cavernous space. "You've manipulated everything. The restaurant, Chef Dominic. The prophecy itself. Victoria merely laughs, the sound cold and hollow in the chamber. No one manipulates prophecy, boy. We merely facilitate its expression." She gestures, and the central crystal directs a beam of light onto Elias, triggering a wave of pain that brings him to his knees, his body beginning to transform. In the control gallery, Cassandra watches in horror as her mother activates the full ceremonial sequence. "Choose, Cassandra," Gregory whispers urgently. "Your family legacy or what you know is right." The silver sword at her hip grows warm, humming with prophetic energy as the moment of decision arrives. Below, Victoria calls out, "Fulfill your destiny, daughter. Strike down the villain while he's vulnerable." The temple crystals surge with blinding energy as Cassandra makes her choice. With deliberate purpose, she draws her silver sword, the weapon generations of Brights have carried into prophesied battle, and drops it. The clatter of metal against stone echoes through the chamber as prophecy faces paradox. The hero who refuses to strike. Simultaneously, the temple crystals crack with a thunderous sound, and Elias feels his birthmark split, the broken crown pattern fragmenting on his skin. "What have you done?" Victoria cries as the ceremonial energy dissipates, prophecy magic recoiling from the contradiction. Elias rises slowly, power still flowing through him but different now, no longer twisted toward destruction but undefined, unwritten. He meets Cassandra's gaze across the chamber, both of them standing in the wreckage of a prophecy thousands of years in the making, fate crystals dimming around them. "We chose," Elias answers simply, as the future, for the first time in his life, becomes his to determine. The end. I would love to hear your story ideas. Please leave a comment below with themes, characters, or settings you'd like to hear in future bedtime tales. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more peaceful tales. Sweet dreams, my dear friends.